Alright, quick update on waves. So I'm really going to base this video on the technical analysis from an unbiased perspective, not bringing in the news about this, but to start with I wanted to cover the news again because it is obviously very important what's been happening recently. If you're unfamiliar with the news, basically their USDN stablecoin lost its peg to $1 and it came all the way down to 70 cents, which in my opinion is really not a good sign for the long-term perspective on waves. I really think this is a bad sign. I think it's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of investors' mouths, and there's a plethora of articles online bashing Neutrino, bashing waves and calling it a Ponzi scheme, calling it a scam. They've been accused of pumping their own crypto by using USDN, and like I said in the last video, I really don't have like too solid of an opinion on this. Like I've said before, I don't work for waves, I'm not an investigator, so but nonetheless, just looking at the USDN stablecoin, I mean it's not good in my opinion. So just to be completely fair with it before we get into the analysis, it is heading back up to $1, so that's really the only opinion that I've got on USDN right now. Nonetheless, jumping into the analysis, which like I said will be from an unbiased technical perspective, I won't bring the fundamentals or all the news into the analysis, we'll keep the news separate, but looking at this from the technicals alone, you can see we've had a very nice retest of this double Fibonacci, double golden pocket, double 618, whatever you want to call it, drawing our previous all-time high fib from high to low. You can see we've got a 618 right here, and drawing our macro move that we just had to the new all-time high, from the low to the high, you can see we've got a 618 right here. So this was a really key area to hold, and we've basically fallen in a straight line down to it in the past couple of days. Now I do think what we're seeing right now is not, I mean, it is good that we've bottomed at the 618, but I'm not 100% convinced that we are gonna, permanently bottom here, because if we look at the squeeze mom, which is a momentum indicator, you can see that this has just flipped red. And in my opinion, there's really only been one time, which is right here, that we flipped red and then initiated an uptrend. Like you can see, if we just look at this chart, you can see every time it flips red, it goes on these absolutely parabolic rampages. This one was real nasty. I mean, pretty much from the all-time high, previous all-time high, I mean it lost a lot of its price back then, and it's the same with a lot of these times. A lot of the time it could just be a quick flush out, a 20-30% correction, but most of the time it is indicative that we are going to enter a parabolic downtrending market structure. So like I said, being completely fair with this, we've bottomed at the 618 so far, and we have managed to find support on the bottom of this long-term moving average on the EMA indicator. Now, like I said, I really am not going to be buying waves at all. I do think all the news that is going on right now with their stablecoin, with the fact that they're being called a Ponzi, with all of these articles going on, the internet, with people bashing it on Twitter, I really don't think it is for me. Like, obviously you can invest if you want, I'm not going to give you financial advice, but I'm just letting you know personally, I'm really only covering this for you guys who are interested in what's going on in the price. Like I said, personally I would not be touching this with a 10-foot barge pole. That is just my opinion, but looking at the technicals on the daily, it's really iffy, because I mean we've bottomed at the 618 so far, but it is very debatable whether we're going to hold this, because the momentum is very much heading to the downside. So unless we start to flip green in the next day or so, and just to be completely clear, if we close a daily candle below $29, I think this is pretty much going to be rugged down to where the uptrend started, around about $10. So I'm really not the biggest fan of the chart right now. And looking at the 4-hourly, the 4-hourly flipped bearish a couple of days ago, and it has been firing a short position since then. You can see today we're starting to head up a bit, so I do think it is in the realm of possibilities that we could have a dead cat bounce potentially to the short-term moving average at $32.72. If you're watching this, the price of these EMA ribbons, they're going to change like every 4 hours or so. So if you're watching this in 4 hours or 8 hours after it's been uploaded, the price target will be slightly lower, because these are going to keep on trending down unless Waves basically does a 2x in the next 4 hours, which in my opinion is not going to happen at all. You could also potentially see a dead cat bounce as high as round about $38 up to the long-term moving average on this EMA indicator, but I would be very, very cautious, like I said, because we could set up a dead cat bounce, run into these 4-hourly EMA ribbons, and then go back to the downside. And also looking at the squeeze mom indicator on the 4-hourly, we have a lot of selling volume to the downside, or not selling volume rather, we have a lot of red candles on the squeeze mom indicator to the downside. Also, I mainly see a sea of red with a bit of green here and there, but you can basically see, I don't necessarily think that this 4-hourly candle, which by the way is going to end in about an hour or so, I don't believe that we will see more than 5 hours of momentum, meaning we could set up this 4-hourly candle, have another 4-hourly candle potentially as high as 38, but then I think we'd be rolling down because if, like I said, if we look at this, there's a lot of momentum to the downside, and also being completely fair with it, the momentum is heading back up, and this could potentially be setting up for a flip to the green side again, but I think with what's going on with the daily, the daily looks like it wants to start to head down, so the 4-hourly, it might just come up to the heartline reset and then start to pick up momentum to the downside, and that is really what I kind of see happening with Waves. Honestly, I'm really not the biggest the biggest fan of this chart, because we just went so parabolic so quickly, and with the news of this being a quote-unquote Ponzi scheme, like I said, I'm really not going to formulate an opinion on that. You can decide it for yourself. Don't shoot the messenger, shoot the person who made the message. But nonetheless, I mean, in my opinion, it's just not good that we've broken above the all-time high. Came up to the 1.618 so far, while people are accusing this of pumping it with its own bags, while USDN Neutrino has been absolutely landslided, and we've come back down to the previous all-time high and we completely lost it. We lost the previous all-time high in terms of the candle body close. We're really not looking good, in my opinion. I think momentum is going to continue to the downside, but as long as 29 holds, we're bullish. So I mean, that's really all I've got to say about this. If we hold 29 from a technical perspective, we are bullish, but in my opinion, with everything that's going on right now, I'm not 100% convinced that this would hold. And you can formulate your own opinion, you can let me know what you think in the comment section below, but I'm really not the biggest fan of the setup of both the chart and all the news that's going on. I mean, adding it all in like a neat ribbon, tying it together, I just don't think it spits a good picture for Waves going on right now. And mainly the daily momentum indicators starting to head to the downside is very, very worrying. The fact that we flipped below these EMA ribbons as well, and we could potentially see these start to converge to the downside. Well, these are going to be converging to the downside unless we start popping above the short-term moving average at $36 to $37. Then this is just going to keep heading down, and then the daily could flip sell. These could turn red, and then we could see a big downtrend, perhaps to around about $10. So that's really all I've got for you for Waves. Once again, as long as we hold $29 from a technical perspective, we are bullish. But at least in my opinion, I'm really not a fan of the setup, the chart, the news, everything tied together. I'm just not, I'm personally not going to touch Waves. So that is all I see for Waves. Once again, none of this is financial advice. Best of luck if you're in Waves, and yeah, cowboy out. Peace.